Welcome, thrill seekers. Today we venture into a dark realm where the digital merges with horror. We'll navigate the intricacies of horror video games, guided by ancestral voices and enveloping atmospheres. A journey into the unknown, where mystery unveils itself only to those daring enough to challenge digital terror. Your adventure into the thrill begins now. Ethan, a 19-year-old with a physique sculpted by the gym and the soul of a dedicated gamer, lived in a small town in Michigan and attended college with excellent grades. He was a sociable and popular guy with many friends and a decent reputation as a Latin lover. Lately, however, he had fallen for Lisa, a brunette with green eyes who also frequented his gym. The two had spent several afternoons together, grabbing coffee and taking walks in the park. That evening, in his apartment, he was immersed in his favorite virtual world, Palworld. His avatar, Ethan the Valiant, roamed through the lush forests of the game, tracking a rare and elusive pal. Suddenly, a metallic noise from downstairs diverted him from the hunt. A shiver of unease ran down his spine. The house was silent, except for the crackling of the fireplace and the tapping of the rain. With his heart pounding, Ethan headed towards the stairs leading to the lower floor. Every step creaked under his weight, magnifying his terror. At the bottom of the stairs, a dark figure stood against the dim light coming from the kitchen. Ethan stopped, his blood freezing in his veins. The silhouette was tall and powerful, with broad shoulders and a menacing demeanor. He couldn't make out the face, but a sense of imminent danger engulfed him. "Is someone there?" Ethan asked, his voice trembling. The figure didn't respond. The silence was deafening, broken only by the rain tapping against the windows. Ethan gathered courage and approached, holding his breath. As he got closer, the figure became clearer. It was a man with a powerful physique and a face Ethan didn't recognize. The man stared at him with cold, piercing eyes, a cruel smile on his lips. Suddenly, the man lunged at Ethan with inhuman speed. Ethan tried to defend himself, but his opponent was too strong. He threw him to the ground with a kick, slamming his head against the floor. Ethan curled up, trying to shield himself from the blows. The man struck him with punches and kicks, with uncontrolled fury. Ethan felt the pain tearing through his flesh and the blood running down his face. In a glimmer of hope, Ethan managed to break free and deliver a kick to his assailant's groin. The man screamed in pain and crumpled to the ground. Ethan seized the opportunity to escape, running towards the front door. Ethan stumbled and fell multiple times, but didn't give up. The man chased him, shouting threats of death. Ethan reached the door and violently opened it, running out into the dark and stormy night. Ethan stopped only when he was sure he was safe. He was exhausted and in pain, but alive. He didn't know who his assailant was or why he had attacked him. The only certainty was that his life had been irreversibly changed by that terrifying encounter. Ethan never slept soundly again. The image of his assailant haunted him in his nightmares. He tormented himself with unanswered questions. Who was that man? What did he want from him? And most importantly, was he still out there ready to strike again? One day, Ethan received an anonymous letter. Inside, there was only one sentence. "You haven't seen anything yet." Ethan understood that the man was still out there, ready to seek revenge. Ethan couldn't find peace. The anonymous letter was a constant warning, a nightmare that haunted him day and night. He knew Carter was still out there, ready to seek vengeance. One night, while Ethan was alone at home, he heard the metallic noise again coming from downstairs. It was Carter. He had returned. Arming himself with a kitchen knife, Ethan headed towards the stairs, terror freezing his blood. At the bottom of the stairs, Carter stared at him with an icy gaze, a devilish smile on his lips. Carter lunged at Ethan with animalistic fury. Ethan tried to defend himself, but his opponent was too strong. He threw him to the ground with a kick, slamming his head against the floor. Struggling to get up, Ethan's face swollen and his lip bleeding, Carter struck him again, this time with a blunt object. Ethan fell to the ground, dazed and in pain. Carter stopped, panting. He took a strange black powder from a pocket and sprinkled it on the floor, creating a circle around Ethan. Then he began muttering incomprehensible words in a language Ethan didn't know. Terrified, Ethan realized that Carter was obsessed with him and Lisa. He had developed a macabre cult and was performing a ritual to curse them. At that moment, the front door kicked open, and the police stormed into the house. Carter was arrested, and the black powder was analyzed. It turned out to be a harmless substance, but the ritual had a devastating psychological effect on Ethan. Ethan and Lisa continued to see each other for a while, but their relationship was never the same. Carter's shadow and the horror of that night loomed over them, making a peaceful future impossible. Ethan decided to move to another city, away from those painful memories. Lisa accompanied him to the train station, her eyes veiled with tears. Jake and Sarah, two university students with an unrestrained passion for video games, spent their evenings immersed in virtual worlds. Their small apartment was a cozy refuge, where white walls and soft lights created an intimate and relaxing atmosphere. Jake, with his tousled brown hair and slightly crooked glasses, was the classic brainiac, always ready to devise winning strategies. Sarah, on the other hand, with her bright green eyes and contagious smile, was the spirited soul of the duo, fearless in the face of any challenge. On a cold winter evening, their nightly ritual came to life. The hum of the PC blended with the faint rustle of game manuals pages as their fingers swiftly danced across the keyboards. They had decided to explore Arcane Odyssey, a fascinating fantasy city rich in mysteries and adventures. The game proceeded normally, featuring battles against fantastical creatures and the discovery of hidden treasures. Jake and Sarah collaborated seamlessly, completing puzzles and defeating enemies with an almost telepathic understanding. Their laughter and comments filled the room, creating an atmosphere of joy and camaraderie. However, their tranquility was suddenly disrupted by the appearance of an enigmatic character, the Dark Omen. Cloaked and with a deep, sinister voice, its arrival brought an aura of unease. Jake and Sarah, initially intrigued, exchanged perplexed glances. Their enjoyment turned into a feeling of escalating tension. The Dark Omen began weaving a dark plot, intertwining lies and deceit with skillful mastery. Its eyes, glowing with an evil light, seemed to penetrate their souls, awakening an ancient and powerful malevolent force. Slowly but inexorably, evil began to take hold of Jake, enveloping him in a cold and eerie aura. Sarah, shocked and terrified, tried to resist the influence of the Dark Omen, but every effort proved futile. The room shook, shadows twisted, and reality began to disintegrate. Objects trembled, sinister figures materialized in the air, and a veil of cold mist enveloped the apartment. The game and reality blurred into an inescapable nightmare. As Jake fell under the control of the Dark Omen, Sarah found herself catapulted into the world of Arcane Odyssey. Once lively cobblestone streets warped into monstrous forms, game characters transformed into hostile creatures, and magic permeated every corner of the virtual world. With a pounding heart and determination in her eyes, Sarah embarked on a desperate struggle to save Jake's soul. She faced horrific creatures, solved complex puzzles, and defeated powerful enemies, driven by love for her boyfriend and the hope of breaking the Dark Omen's curse. After an exhausting and perilous journey, Sarah finally reached Jake, now completely possessed by evil. His soul was imprisoned in the depths of the game, bound to the Dark Omen by an indestructible tether. With a broken heart and tears in her eyes, Sarah realized that her only chance to save Jake was to sacrifice her own freedom. In a final act of love and courage, she surrendered to the Dark Omen, releasing Jake's soul from its grip. Jake woke up in their apartment, shaken and confused. The game was over, the mist had dissipated, and the shadows had returned to being harmless shades. But Sarah was no longer there. she remained forever trapped in the world of Arcane Odyssey, her soul imprisoned in the grip of the beloved game. Devastated by grief and loss, Jake never gave up. He continued to play Arcane Odyssey, desperately seeking a way to reach Sarah and free her from her virtual prison. Every day, he hoped against hope to see her again, to hold her hand and relive their moments together. Jake's life changed radically after the tragic loss of Sarah. Their once laughter-filled and cozy apartment became a silent and oppressive place, haunted by memories of his beloved. Jake immersed himself in the game, trying to escape the pain and keep Sarah's memory alive. He played day and night, exploring every corner of Arcane Odyssey, hoping against hope to find a clue, a trace that would lead him to her. Months passed, then years. Jake transformed into a virtual hermit, known throughout the world of Arcane Odyssey as the Shadow Hunter, a solitary warrior obsessed with the quest for his beloved. His fame grew, attracting the attention of players and adventurers from every corner of the virtual world. One day, while exploring an ancient ruin, Jake came across a mysterious manuscript. Its yellowed pages told the legend of a magical artifact, the Soul Shard, capable of connecting the real world to the virtual one. It was said that the shard was guarded by an ancient dragon, hidden in a desolate land at the edges of the known world. Without hesitation, Jake embarked on a new adventure, determined to obtain the Soul Shard and use it to reach Sarah. The journey was long and dangerous, full of pitfalls and hostile creatures. Jake faced fierce trolls, warrior skeletons, and evil wizards, narrowly escaping deadly traps and terrifying spells. Finally, after an exhausting battle against the ancient dragon, Jake obtained the Soul Shard. With trembling hands, he held it close and uttered the magical words written on the manuscript. A whirlwind of light completely enveloped him, transporting him to an unknown place. When he opened his eyes, Jake found himself in a land of mist and silence. In front of him, an ethereal figure was materializing. Sarah. Their eyes met, and for the first time in years, their tears mingled in a moving embrace. The Soul Shard had worked. Jake had managed to reach Sarah, to bring her back to life, even if only in the virtual world of Arcane Odyssey. Despite the joy of finding her again, Jake knew she wasn't the same Sarah as before. She was a shadow, a digital copy of his beloved, trapped in a world of bits and codes. However, Jake was determined to give her a new life, even if virtual. Together they explored new worlds, fought new enemies, and created a new existence in their small corner of Arcane Odyssey. The love that bound them was stronger than any obstacle, even the barrier that separated the real from the virtual. Jake and Sarah loved and supported each other, day after day, year after year, aware that their love was the only thing that mattered, even confined within a game. The story of Jake and Sarah became a legend in the world of Arcane Odyssey, a tale of love, hope, and sacrifice that inspired players and adventurers of all ages. Their union, albeit virtual, was a symbol of how love could overcome any obstacle, even death. They were two souls trapped in a digital world, but their love was real, tangible, and stronger than any magic. The rays of the setting sun filtered through the lace curtains, tinting Emily's room with a rosy hue. She was a young university student with a passionate love for video games, especially the Fatal Fantasy series. Her collection of titles was a source of pride, a virtual museum she guarded jealously. That day, like many others, Emily was relaxing in her room, immersed in yet another adventure of Fatal Fantasy. It was a lazy day, marked by the rhythmic tapping of rain against the windows and the scent of warm tea wafting through the air. A sudden metallic sound shattered the quiet. An email notification. A message from an old friend, Richard, with whom she had shared countless hours of online gaming. Her heart skipped a beat when she saw the attachment, a mysterious file with an enigmatic name. Curiosity pricked her mind like a crazed bee. A never-released Fatal Fantasy game, a dark and forgotten chapter. The temptation was irresistible. With a click, she opened the file and initiated a nightmare that would devour her sanity. The screen lit up, revealing a distorted world, an evil echo of the series she loved. Characters, grotesque caricatures of themselves, wandered aimlessly in a limbo of terror. A growing anguish gripped Emily's heart as she advanced through this realm of nightmares, realizing with a shiver of terror that her connection to the game was deeper than she had imagined. Every step in the virtual world was accompanied by unsettling echoes in her reality. Shadows twisted at the edges of her vision, chilling whispers haunted her dreams. The barrier between fiction and reality was thinning, revealing an abyss of madness. Days turned into an endless nightmare. Emily was obsessed with the game, unable to detach herself from that increasingly engulfing, distorted reality. Her apartment became a dark refuge, filled with empty tea mugs and stacks of neglected textbooks. Her social life disintegrated, replaced by a single unhealthy obsession: the cursed game. The further she progressed in the game, the more her mental sanity wavered. Terrifying hallucinations tormented her, visions of monstrous creatures materializing at the edges of her sight. Everyday sounds took on sinister nuances, whispers that only she could hear. One night, as her avatar was guided by a spectral figure toward a dark portal, Emily felt herself sucked into the game. Terror seized her as she found herself in a labyrinth of horrors, pursued by monstrous creatures screaming her condemnation. Time twisted upon itself, stretching into an eternity of agony. She managed to escape from that virtual hell, but the boundary between worlds was now irreversibly compromised. Her actions in the game manifested in reality, distorting her existence into an endless nightmare. Her mental sanity faltered under the weight of this impossible reality, collapsing entirely on a night of terror. Wandering the deserted streets under a starless sky, Emily lost all contact with reality. City lights warped into grotesque shapes, and shadows danced in a macabre procession. She was found by passers-by, a shattered soul on the brink. The psychiatric hospital became her prison, an asylum of cold walls and vacant stairs. The echo of the game haunted her, an indelible curse that had mentally consumed her. Emily was now a shadow of the girl she once was, trapped in a limbo between reality and the nightmare she had unleashed. Her story became an urban legend whispered with terror in online forums and gaming chats. Some brave souls attempted to emulate her, hoping to unravel the mysteries of the game and free the tormented souls. But none of them returned. Their stories were lost in time, swallowed by the digital abyss. Richard, the friend who sent the cursed file to Emily, was haunted by guilt. He immersed himself in a deep search, trying to decipher the game's code and find a way to break the curse. After months of tireless work, Richard made a groundbreaking discovery. The game was actually a portal to another dimension, a dark realm inhabited by monstrous creatures and ruled by an evil entity. With the help of a group of skilled hackers, Richard created a virus capable of destroying the game and closing the portal. It was a desperate plan, a last chance to save Emily and the other trapped souls. Richard infiltrated the psychiatric hospital, determined to free his friend from her prison of pain. He found her in a dark room, huddled in a corner, with vacant eyes staring into nothingness. Her once bright and lively eyes were now dull and empty. With a last glimmer of hope, Richard injected the virus into her. Emily's body convulsed violently, as if struck by an electric shock. A piercing scream escaped her lips, while the shadows around her writhed and dissolved. When the virus completed its course, the girl lay motionless on the floor. Richard knelt beside her, trembling with tension. A moment later, her eyelids slowly opened. Emily was alive, but her mind was still fragile. Memories of the game haunted her like recurring nightmares. It took months of therapy and the support of Richard and her friends to help her rebuild her life. The experience had marked her deeply, but Emily didn't give up. With time, she learned to coexist with the traumas and turn the pain into strength. The young girl decided to use her experience to help others. She became a psychologist specializing in psychological traumas caused by video games and digital technologies. She lectured worldwide, raising public awareness about the dangers of video game abuse and the need for responsible technology use. Emily's story became a warning for all video game enthusiasts, a whisper of terror spreading through online communities. The line between fiction and reality had been drawn with Emily's blood, a fragile boundary that no one dared to challenge anymore. Intriguing travelers of the dark, I hope this journey into the depths of digital terror has stirred your thirst for mystery. If you wish to delve even deeper into the enigmatic narrations of my chronicles and not miss a single thrill, subscribe now to our channel. Hit the bell to be the first to uncover the secrets concealed by the darkness. Get ready, because in other adventures we'll meet again. I am Mr. Vincent. Stay tuned for the next chapter of spine-tingling emotions.